Welcome to MANN-O-LOGUES. I'm Dr. Sundra Mann, the creator and host. MANN-O-LOGUES is where life and leadership converge. Enjoy the journey and thank you for listening to MANN-O-LOGUES. Welcome to MANN-O-LOGUES. My name is Dr. Sundra Mann. I am the creator and host of MANN-O-LOGUES. MANN-O-LOGUES is a series of conversations about leadership and life and how leadership reflects on life and how life impacts leadership. I am so excited today to have with me as my guest the Honorable Ventris Gibson. Mrs. Gibson is recently retired as the director of the United States Mint. I am pleased to have you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. And good morning.
Please tell me, how did you know that you were going to be excelled into leadership? And what was a pivotal moment for you? How did it start? Did you have mentors? Did you just always know that you wanted to be a leader? Tell us how your journey started?
I believe my journey started without realization that it was leadership. I am the oldest or the eldest of six, and the other five were all boys or all boys. I've lost several brothers. And my mother and father always looked to me to babysit, to take the lead. And because they were so ingrained in church, I was in church plays and the church choir and the junior usher board. I often think about people who say, they've been in church all the time. I went, wait, let's flip a coin and see who really has been in church all the time. And so even in church, the pastor, when I was in the youth part of the church, where you move out of that young stage into the teenage stage or the young adult, and they would task me with various responsibilities. So I never thought of it as leadership. I thought that's the way church moves, and I always have just I've always loved God and have always had him in my life. And the pivotal moment for me, when I knew that I had to do something different, was my brothers had paper routes in Washington, D.C. And they would deliver papers like as early as 6 a.m. in the mornings, riding bikes or walking, whichever their route was that day. On the dates that they had to collect money, my mother and father would send me to walk with them. So not so much as a protector, but more as do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. And it was one day we were collecting and a bunch of boys came up to us and they wanted to rob my brothers. And I felt the need at that moment to take charge. But I didn't do anything but fall on my knees and pray in front of these boys. I said, well, the Lord can put you in places. And that's when I kind of knew that I was responsible and accountable for my family. And they did not, it scared them so bad that I did that they ran away. And my mother and father, that's when we terminated all of because crime had started to turn in the district at that point. But anyway, that's when I knew. And it's been a journey ever since. I seem to pick things that women have not traditionally gone into, like air traffic control. Who does that? Now it's happening, but back in the 60s and 70s, that was not the norm.
Oh, that is amazing. So truly God is with us always, right?
Always.
Yes.
Always.
Always. Oh, that is amazing. And I love that you had such a strong foundation that you knew the best thing to do was to pray, right? That
all
is
the time.
wonderful.
All the time.
That
Yes.
lays such a great foundation for just how to navigate life in general. So I love that. I love that, especially the fact that you just knew that that was the thing to do, right? And so
Exactly.
that is an example that, people often say, are leaders born or are they made? Well, clearly you were born to be a leader. And then, the making happens in refining skills along the way, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. So, what inspired you to go into the military? Did you know someone that was in the military? Did you just say, I want to do that? Like, how did you, as you said,
Yeah.
Those were careers that aren't traditional necessarily back then that women would
Right.
just jump into. How did you get into the military?
I got into the military because when there were six of us, as I said, and the three eldest of us, my parents could not afford to send us to college. And they did not have the ways or means, and the programs weren't as available for help during that time. And so they encouraged all three of us to go into the military because my mother's brothers were all World War II veterans. And my mother wanted to go in the military, but at that time in her life, they didn't accept. So we just decided I wanted to go in the Navy because I saw join the Navy and see the world. It was the see the world. So that's what inspired me. And it's funny, years ago on Pennsylvania Avenue, that's where I was recruited. And there was a statue of a sailor near 10th and 11th Street, Pennsylvania. And I was walking there one day and I walked into the recruiting office.
Oh, amazing, amazing. I am a local too. I was born in Washington, D.C. Yes.
Okay.
So, yes. So, I read a recent post that said, you are not a leader until you produce another leader.
Mm.
What does that mean to you in terms of how you lead and how you have led across,
Mm-hmm.
your different organizations?
You have to be a people developer. That's what I call it. And you have to be willing to train up. And as an African American, I have an obligation to make sure that our people have equal access and are treated equally and are positioned to do their jobs well, just like everybody else. And I have always made sure that wherever I have worked, I've put in place programs to ensure the advancement of all people. And it really it brings you a sense of joy when you look back and you see the people who have moved into the senior executive service to political appointments, where they've left and started their own business, or where they've realized, well, I thought I wanted to do this, but I want to do another something. And it's always very refreshing. And it's opportunities like this one that you've afforded me to get the word out that as leaders, we're responsible for developing people. And just think, if you develop people to know what they're doing, to know how to do it, when to do it, then you are actually making them more susceptible to success than to be turned away.
That is wonderful. I am a true proponent of succession planning. I
Yes.
believe that, like you, it is our responsibility to not just propel our own leadership, but then also to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that we are training others so that we can sit down one day, right? That
Exactly.
is so important, so important.
Exactly.
All right, so let's get into what I'm excited to talk to you about. So
Okay.
you've had an amazing career at the United States Mint.
Yes.
How did you go from where you started to becoming the senior executive of the United States Mint? Tell me a little bit about your journey.
My,
Like, how did
my.
it start? And did you see did you say that's what I want to do? Tell us about it.
If we always remember that we should remain flexible and it's God's plan, not our plan. And I would have never thought I would end up the director of the United States Mint. But after the Navy, I went into the Veterans Affairs Office to find out what were my benefits as a veteran. And they said, wow, African American, Vietnam era veteran woman, would you like a job? So I started there in human resources and progressed through HR. I made myself available to relocate because that was a huge component of recruiting then, as you wanted to progress in the grades towards senior executive status. And so they sent me, my first real supervisory job was New York City. And everyone says, who goes to New York City? And I said, I do. The good news is my dad lived there. So I knew that I would be okay. And New York launched my career, that I came back to Washington, advanced some more in VA. Then they sent me to Newark, New Jersey as the head of HR. And I used to volunteer for assignments, and some assignments really were not big deals, but I made it such, like being the savings bond chairperson or organizing campaigns around Toys for Tots, that sort of thing. So I would volunteer. So that was one key principle. Make sure you put yourself out there, because if you don't, no one will see you. And when you watch different movies and people go, I see you, like Avatar, I see you. You want that. You want, I see you. And that led to 23 years with the VA and progression up to, I was sent on a special investigation when I was a grade 15 to Fayetteville, North Carolina, where it was rampant sexual harassment against employees. And the then Secretary, Jesse Brown, one of the first, I believe he was the first African-American Secretary of Veterans Affairs. He sent me to, and I was not even part of the team that is relevant to that area of work. It was a medical center. And my background was in the compensation part of VA, veterans benefits. I went, found true, I had to testify before the Senate, and that led to my elevation to senior executive service status. After VA, I went to the Federal Aviation Administration because FAA was looking for a human resources executive that reported directly. It was a member of the senior C-suite team and who also understood aviation. And someone at church, not Reed Temple, but the church where the president goes, asked the Secretary of VA, hey, you know a whole bunch of veterans, you know anybody who's HR and can run HR in aviation? And he said, yeah, Ventris Gibson. Who knew? But I reported directly to him, so that's why he knew that. So, worked with FAA for 8 to 9 years and then decided to retire. I stayed in retirement just a short period of time. Obama's administration asked me to come in and do things with them, and I did. And then I did things for Partnership for Public Service. Worked with that, became the co-chair of the HR space. And then sequestration, you might remember that term in the federal government, happened. And it was just a few of us HR professionals left in the federal government that knew how to run reductions in force. The National Labor Relations Board asked me would I come in and help them run their reduction in force. When I went in, I told them, RIF is not your answer. Downsizing is your answer. And if you do it in a manner that's respectable of the people and sensitive and compassionate for people, then you will be successful and you won't have any challenges and there won't be a hatred mentality when people walk out the door or a survivor guilt complex for those who are left. And we did that very well. And then HHS called because at that time, E. coli was apparently going around and a few other things overseas, and they wanted to protect it from getting into the United States. So they asked me to come over and help write the program for employees to protect them and their families. And I did that. Then they offered me a job. Said, would you like to come back? And I did. And then Mayor Bowser got elected. I don't know who told her about Ventris, but her senior recruiter called and said, would you like to talk to the mayor about serving as her chief human resources officer? I said, oh, okay. So I went in and the interview was wonderful. And there were several people at the table, the mayor, deputy mayor, and others. And so I asked them, I answered all their questions, which I thought was very easy. They thought they were complex, but that's all right. That's the Lord. When he prepares you, he prepares you. And so toward the end, I said, I am in a very public position now. This has to be a serious offer. And it cannot get out until I'm able to talk to the secretary and deputy secretary at HHS. And as a result, the mayor said, I am very serious about this. And there's another round of interviews and we'll call you for that. I walked out the door. It wasn't 15 minutes later, they called and offered me the job. Yes, Mayor Bowser was phenomenal to work for. And to get that city government HR experience, you do more than HR. And that's what really was a further defining moment. The federal government was wonderful to me. They developed me. I have no ill will at all. And that's why I still have a love for it. The city government connects you immediately to people. You know, when Mary Sue accidentally calls you thinking she's calling human services about rats in the back of her house, you need to be prepared to figure out who can help her and get her connected, because you serve the residents of the city regardless of your position. And that was such a joy for me, to whatever, we had in that regard. I wanted to do something different, talk to the mayor about doing something different, and she offered me many different opportunities. However, I got a call from the White House and said, the Department of Treasury would like to consider you for the Assistant Secretary for Management at Treasury. Would you be willing to meet with the Deputy Secretary? And I said, whew, that's political. I said, how did my name come up? Oh, your name is with Office of Personnel Management, And I said, oh, because I'm a dinosaur in HR. And a lot of the HR responsibilities throughout my career didn't just involve the HR. I had safety with FAA, if there was mold in a tower, I had that responsibility. I had responsibility for childcare centers, 24/7. Some of them operated, for air traffic. In the city, I was responsible for things that I never knew would come across my desk. And that was always very thrilling. That call with the White House, I had to pray a lot about that, because the process is exhausting, it's humiliating, and it makes you question why. And I said, do I want to put my family through this or myself? I prayed about it. And I'll tell you, when I said yes, I went to meet with the Deputy Secretary, and he said, we have the Assistant Secretary for Management and all of your background in IT, HR, et cetera. You're a perfect fit for that. He said, but Ventris, I have this other job and it really needs help. It has some trouble going on from a leadership perspective, workforce perspective, union perspective, civil rights, everything that you, and I went, whew, that's a heavy lift. So I said, can I have time to think about it? He said, yes. He said, I really wish you would consider that. The Secretary Yellen, and I would love if you would take that job. I went home and I prayed. And I know this is long, but forgive me, this last part is very short, but powerful. My father has a watch that is probably 45 years old. And he said, something's wrong with it. Can you take it to the jeweler? And I said, well, I'm down here, Dad. I don't know a jeweler down here anywhere. Where I have to go? Lynchburg, Charlottesville? Just tell me where. He said, there's Seven Oaks. It's a jeweler in Lynchburg. That's where we take all of our watches to get their batteries changed. I said, okay. So I went in. When I pulled up, on the left side was the jeweler. On the right side was a coin store. So while they were repairing his watch, I walked over to the coin store and looked through things. And I said, hey, do you know about the United States Mint? And he said, oh, yes, ma'am. They make all our money. I said, well, I know that, but what sort of information would you share with someone if they were interested in collecting coins? And they spent time with me. They didn't know, and I could not share. And I walked out and I went and picked his watch back up. And the Lord spoke to me just as clear. He said, see, that's the job I want you to take. And I called and said, yes, do you know when God purposes something for you, even though, what is that saying we all use? He doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the call. I knew that it would be an uphill battle, because the US Mint coin collecting is primarily senior white rich men. And if they're not wealthy, they are senior white men. And I knew that, oh my God, the first Black being appointed to, I knew I was going to catch it. But there's no battle that you have to fight alone, because the Lord will give you what you need as long as you are obedient and you're in a position to hear, receive, and do.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. That was so delightful.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. I knew a little bit, but I had no idea of the various organizations, but also it's so this is why I like to do this, right? So it is the stories
Yeah.
behind, because sometimes
Yeah.
people just look and they look at this amazing career you've had over 50 years and this rise to, executive leadership, but they have no
Mm-hmm.
idea about all the little things that happen in the background. And that's what inspires people to keep going, right? And that is
Right,
something
right.
that may help someone who is hesitant in, can I do this? Or maybe
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in
Mm-hmm.
position, or they don't see that vision for themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
But all of the steps along the way, and the most consistent thing I heard was your faith, right? And so
Yes.
your faith grounded you throughout all of that,
Mm-hmm.
and your commitment to the small things, right? Which is something I'm going to ask you about in a minute. But I also want to point out and highlight that in your journey, I heard a few things, right? So I heard flexibility. So you were willing to raise your hand and go somewhere beyond what you knew.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that was the first step right there. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
we get stuck and we think we're going to stay like in this, we don't feel comfortable moving outside of this box, right? So we stay
That's
in
right.
this neighborhood, we stay in this city, we stay in this state, and we don't move beyond, and we
That's
miss
right. That's right.
opportunities, right? So that's one thing I saw. I heard service. Everything that you said from beginning to end was about service, serving other people, serving your country, serving the government, serving the people, that the residents, right? The citizens.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
heard that line of service. And then connections. So you made connections all the way. So not only you were making connections when you didn't even know you were making
Didn't
connections,
know it. That's
because
right.
they knew who you were, right? So your reputation, your work ethic spoke volumes for people to consider you, like, hey, have you considered Ventris, right?
All
Have you
right.
considered my son Job, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so I think about that, and that is just amazing. So I believe that your story to leadership will is so impactful that when folks hear it, they are going to be even more inspired, because they're gonna see the human side,
That's
right?
right.
And so
Yes.
sometimes we see the pomp and circumstance, but we
Mm-hmm.
don't see the human side behind the story. So thank you for
Mm-hmm.
sharing that. So you didn't know I was going to ask you this, but I was recently rereading one of the books that I really like, which is Colin Powell's book, one of his books that he wrote
Yes.
before he passed. And he's had in there, he said this. He said, success ultimately rests on small things, lots of small things. Leaders have to have a feeling for the small things going on in the depths of the organization where they
That's right.
reside. The more senior you become, the more you are insulated by pomp
Mm-hmm.
staff. It's harder to see the more necessary things that are going on 6 floors below you.
That's right.
But you seem to have remained connected to the small things. How have you done that? How have you, because it seems like you're very much in tune with people across all areas at all levels. But how did you do that? Because you have had a very senior executive career. How did you stay connected to the small things?
By remembering what small things we think that people do, when in reality, it's the major thing that contributes to the success of the organization. So you have to figure out at what level should I connect? And one, I still believe, and people may or may not accept that, I still believe about management by walking around. You've got to walk around. Well, I have thousands of employees. Well, so did I. And what I would do is I had a schedule where I traveled to my facilities and even Fort Knox, because, the employees there are isolated. And when I would go there, I just would make sure I took cupcakes, or I would send them cupcakes. I tried to do things to let them know that I care and what they do is important to the success of the mint, not Ventris, but the mint, because if the mint's successful, all of us are successful. And the small things, you know, when someone imprints a penny, and I know that pennies have gone away, but you have to know how to do that. So I'm telling you, I loved our coin operators who could make the coins and the designers. I went to Philadelphia, which is the largest mint in the world. And I said, I want to work a shift. And they said, no, director, we don't, no, you have to wear safety clothes. I said, I don't care. I want to work a shift. I want to feel what they feel. I want to know what they know. I want to do what they do. And the union came to me and said, you know, you really shouldn't do this. I said, but I can. That's when you can rest in, but I'm the director. I can. I worked a shift. I made 35 million quarters. I was exhausted. Oh my God. I was exhausted. I went back to the hotel room. And they said, you're going to go get some? No, I don't want anything to eat. I just want to go to bed.
I love that.
And that gave me a new appreciation for some blue collar work.
Yes.
And do you know that the word spread so fast? Director's coming. She's gonna work a shift. Y'all better get ready. She's not playing. So anyway, that's the small things. Recognizing people, small wins, big projects, and you have small wins. You have to pause and say thank you. I started a program of sending birthday cards personally signed by me to every employee. And let me tell you, my hand got tired of signing because there would be hundreds at one facility, hundreds at another. But we kept the program going. And I would receive emails that says, wow, director, thank you. And then when I would go out, if an employee's sister owned a restaurant that they would tell me about, I went there and ate.
Yes.
So it's connecting, but I've always loved people. And the Mint was a phenomenal job. And hopefully I get to talk a little bit about Harriet Tubman, because
absolutely, yes,
that is profound what God did there. Oh my goodness. So
yes. So I want to highlight, because I do want to hear about, because I put that on my list of things that I wanted to ask you about. I was like, well, I'll see where this conversation winds. I won't force it. So I'm glad you mentioned it. Before we move to that, I do want to highlight authenticity, being an authentic leader, right? And so that's what really resonated with me as you were sharing how you stay connected, right? From you demonstrating that you understood the work and you wanted to know what it was like, right? So in order to lead something, you need to know all about it, right? That is important. That boosts the confidence that folks have in you, that you're not just some leader in a box on a shelf.
That's right.
You're someone that they can relate to, and someone who really understands what their working conditions are, what their needs are, and then values their work. That was phenomenal in demonstrating the value of my work, because as you said, sometimes people are isolated in the thing that they do. So yes, absolutely.
That's right.
Oh yes. All right. So please tell us about, please tell us about Harriet Tubman. Yes.
When, first of all, there were two programs, the American Women Quarters program. Women have not been featured on circulating coins. We've had them on silver dollars and that sort of thing, but not quarters. And so Maya Angelou was the first to go on a circulating quarter. The program was for 4 years, did everything we could, and very successful, very successful. Congress then passed a bill asking the U.S. Mint to do commemorative coins on Harriet Tubman, as well as the World War II, park in downtown DC, and memorial, I should say. And so I said, this is Harriet Tubman. She was my idol. When you know how you have someone you look up to. And I used to always say, how in the world did she walk 13 times from Maryland or Delaware to Pennsylvania. And she never lost anyone. No, she would make them get up and go, get up and move. She couldn't read. She had been injured at the age of 12 when in a general store, she was in there organizing things, and a slave owner came in with his slave and told him to do something. He didn't do it. This man picked up a weight and threw it at the other child, but it hit Harriet Tubman in the head. She suffered lifelong with headaches, seizures, and blackouts. But she used one word every time. She said, I have faith in God. And she even told him when the first time she said, now you call me to do this. So I'm putting my hand in your hand. And you will have to lead and guide me because Lord knows I don't know what I'm doing. And she did. Now, for the Mint, the commemorative coin program, when Congress authorizes it, you have to design it. You have to make sure you meet with people to give you input into the design. But more importantly, you have a responsibility for helping to get the coins out there. The Mint's theme was connecting America through coins. My selection was because of the lack of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the Mint and in what they were doing. So I had marching orders. I saw Harriet Tubman, and I thanked the Lord. Oh my goodness, did I thank the Lord every day? I thanked the Lord because here it was, my childhood idol. I'm the U.S. Mint director, and I have an opportunity to get a commemorative program out to the community. So I asked my marketing people, how do we market this? They said, well, we can only do so much. I said, okay. When we say connecting America through coins, what's your plan for connecting America through coins? Well, it's just letting the organizations know, and, we support them. I said, we're not doing that. I said, Harriet Tubman's going to be the most successful program under my leadership. And small things, right? She was principal to the AME Zion Church. And I partnered with the Underground Railroad Freedom Center in Ohio, but with the New York, where her home was ultimately in New York, partnered with Karen Hill, who is president and CEO of the Harriet Tubman Home. Very successful. She and the Underground Railroad really pushed with Congressman Meeks and Congresswoman Beatty to get the coin program in place for her. And I said, they worked this hard. We, the Mint, will carry the water now. Do you know, for the first time, and I've been AME for most of my life, I've never been to a general conference. I always only went to the connectional level at the district. And I used to always wonder, why is it, and forgive me for saying this, but I used to wonder, why is it that women very rarely get selected to represent the church? And it was kind of like a thorn in my side about it. But I said, you know what? That's not my problem. Let me just do what I need to do. AME Zion Church, when they found out that I was expanding this program, I sat with their bishops, all of them, at their general conference, at their missionary. Now they call me all the time. I go out, I do a lot of Harriet Tubman work now. And they gave me the Harriet Tubman Pioneer Award. God, I want to cry. Vashti McKenzie was there.
Yes.
There were so many people there.
She's so elegant.
Al
elegant.
Sharpton was there. Oh. And all of them recognized the work that the Mint put in. I was on travel perpetually for 1 year.
Wow.
We sold so many Harriet Tubman coins. And I said, this is what we need to do. How does that 13-year-old young girl or young man know that they are part of American history? Someone has to tell them. And you know what? I am so thankful to the Lord. Just 2 weeks ago, my friend, as I call her, who was in charge of Harriet Tubman, suddenly passed away.
Oh, so sorry.
And she and I were planning several events. Well,
Mhm.
the church, the AME Zion Church, still wants me planning. I'm going out to
Oh,
Los Angeles for their conference to speak about her. So I just am so thankful to the Lord for that journey. And
such amazing good work. Oh my gosh.
and
Your
then I
work is
said
not in vain.
when the election came and the current person in office won,
Mhm.
I knew that I would had to leave, but
Sure.
they asked me to stay on
Mhm.
because separate from the commemorative program, I had to make money for the nation.
Yes,
That
yes.
was part of the real job. And we did. We never missed a beat on that. Well, anyway, I get a call March 3rd that said the president wants to put someone else in office. And when the Lord purposes things, he does it so well.
Amen.
I did not, I could afford it because my appointment was by Congress, but by law, I should say. And I went ahead and prayed about it. And I said, I would like to leave. I'll re-retire March 31st.
Mhm.
And that was fine. Thanked me for my service.
Yeah.
Was really sad that I was leaving, but the president needed to appoint someone new, and I got that.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, no, I'm not leaving. How dare you ask me? And the Lord said, no, we're not doing this today. Okay.
That was a good training of leading those five brothers. That's what that
That's
was.
exactly right. You know when to give up, right? Um, my father raised us on a saying, good, better, best, never let it rest till your good is better and your better is best. I
Oh,
knew I had done the best job that I could do. But let me tell you how God works. So, right after the call, I had to figure out how in the world am I going to lead the Mint? I loved the people. Oh my God, it was terrible. And I came home, I actually cried. And I said,
yeah.
Lord, I love the Mint. You gave me this job. And then it hit me. Did you love the Mint more than you loved me?
Oh. Mm.
Child, don't he humble you pretty quick?
Yes. Yes.
So I said, okay, I got it. There's a future. Jeremiah 29.
Yes.
I said,
You
so
know
what
the
I'll do is,
plans. Yes.
I'll just go ahead. And so I was asleep one night, got a major cramp in my leg, jumped out the bed, fell on my knee, and broke my kneecap. This is 2 days after I got that
Wow.
call. And I got up and I went, oh, I'm okay. The next morning, my knee was I couldn't walk. So we went to the emergency room there in Alexandria, Virginia. And the ortho people came and said, oh, you broke your knee. And took me off. I contacted Treasury to say, look, it's not possible for me to come back in. I can't walk. They said, you know what? Thank you. You've done a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
You're on paid leave until you retire.
Oh, wow. See, look at
So,
that. Honor, honor. God honors. He honors. He
and
honors.
so I have no ill will. I'm thankful. I knew I walked into a political
Yes.
appointment that would end.
Yes.
But that's just it. And so when I think about Harriet Tubman and she walked by faith, everything was faith. Do you
Yes.
know her parting words? And I'll end there.
Uh-huh.
When she became free, she said she looked at her hands and they didn't look the same.
Yeah.
She said she looked out over the trees and the sun shined like gold.
Yes.
And she looked up into heaven and said, Lord, thank you, I'm free.
My,
And
my,
that's exactly how I felt. So
my. Oh, amazing. Oh,
I
woo,
hope that's
I
what
have
you
chills.
wanted.
I have chills. I do. I have chills. I
Oh,
have chills. So, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
yeah.
Wow. Wow. I read that when you retired, you gave one final charge. Mhm. You told your US Mint family, be blessed and be a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
Know that you are loved and will inevitably be in my heart. That to me, that speaks to the grace and
Oh,
again,
I
the
love them.
authenticity of you as a leader. So, how have you handled situations? And you sort of talked about it, but not, you
Mm-hmm.
danced
Mm-hmm.
around it. But how have you handled situations where you've worked at organizations and members of the organization where either their value system or their
Mm-hmm.
beliefs or maybe even their vision
Mm-hmm.
didn't align with
Mm-hmm.
yours, but you knew that you had to still
Mm-hmm.
keep moving forward, right? Because you had
Right.
people counting on you. You had,
Right.
so much was at stake,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and you had to sort of not put
Mm-hmm.
yourself aside, but how did
Mm-hmm.
you press through that?
Just it's easier said than done, but I followed my own process. My process is fit, fairness, integrity, and trust. That you had to be able to trust me as your leader, but I had to earn that trust. That I would lead with integrity and that I would be fair to all regardless. And so that was my operating model. But what I would do with difficult circumstances is, and I had that with the Mint. When I walked in, they put the N word out in the coin world, and that was unbelievable to me, but not unbelievable. And I said, I organized groups around the coin industry and met with them and they said, what makes you different? Blah, blah, blah. You don't have any coining experience, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I have what previous may not have had. I have effective leadership. And I said, rather than criticizing, give me a chance, give me 4 months. And then we'll meet again. And 4 months, I made some changes to the website, basic stuff that made them very happy. And then they started saying, okay, let's give her another couple of months. I started going to shows. So it's like whatever the root cause of the problem may be, you don't just look at it as a problem, you look at the root cause. What contributed to where we are? And that's where I would go. I would try and go to the root cause and also involve the people that were the naysayers. You have to have their input, otherwise they'll never get on board. And then, you have to let some people go, and then you have to make sure you grow others.
As someone we know in common would say, you have to release them to their destiny.
There you go.
Yes, yes, we have to release them. That is amazing. Fairness, integrity, and trust.
Yes.
Getting down to the root cause. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it because you're building your reputation
Mm-hmm.
as someone who can be trustworthy, but
Mm-hmm.
also someone who can get things done, right? And I love
Yeah.
that you were very clear. So one thing that you're going to get when you get with me is someone who has proven effectiveness as a leader, right?
Exactly. And clear expectations for the workforce. Yeah.
Yes, I love that. I love that. So, one thing that I have observed about you over the years is that faith and family are at your core.
Yes.
So, living a life that has been such a public one, how
Mm-hmm.
have you been able to keep faith and family sacred and protected?
Mm-hmm. By involving them in decision making on what's next and what could be expected, by letting them know that family comes first. Well, I mean, God is first, but in secular world, family. And then my also, I used to forget about myself, and I did suffer a few illnesses as a result of that because I pushed too hard and and suffered lifelong kind of illnesses I'll just have to deal with. But that's all right. I'm fine as long as I can keep going. So anyway, that's principally it.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, it sounds like you are now finding ways to indulge in self care when you can.
I absolutely do. One of the things that I have learned is I'm reading a lot more,
Okay.
and that is really satisfying. That I still can be connected professionally without exhaustion.
Yes,
So
yes.
I'm picking and choosing which events I can attend and participate in. And I'm really hopeful of getting back in the church. I miss church so much.
Yeah.
And I am a member of a little small church called Rivermont Baptist.
Okay.
And the pastor's 30 years old. and he has such great ideas, but there's no workers. And I'm sitting going, oh no, Pastor Washington worked us to death.
You see, I see a hand raising coming. I see a hand raising. Uh-huh.
So let's see. Let me think. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Well, that is a wonderful for my next question for you, which is what during this, so your transition to retirement is still very new and fresh. You're still in the
Yes.
honeymoon period of retirement.
Yes.
What are you looking forward to in this next chapter in your life?
I'm looking forward to still feeling valued.
Mhm.
I don't want to, sit in a rocking chair. I'm a baby boomer, and we have that level of competition in us. I don't know if I would ever want to do political appointments again,
Okay.
or work full time with heavy lifts, because that seems to have been my career. Is I've been pulled into heavy lifts, and it's only been by the grace of God that I've made it through. I do want to do teaching. I have several offers to do teaching on leadership, and that's kind of where I am, because I can pick and choose that, and then whatever I earn can be my vacation money, because I still have my bucket list, like climb Mount Everest.
That's right. That's right.
So since I can't physically do it, can I see it? Can I just see it? So I have little things like that.
Wonderful. Just to pick and choose, right? So to get to that point where you have come to a point in your life where you have so many wonderful experiences that you've lived thus far, but you are looking forward to all that is open to you now in the future as you have more time.
Yes.
And you get to determine, I'll pick that. No, I'm going to leave that there. I'll take that. It's like a menu, right? So a menu of things in life. That is amazing. Well, it has been such a privilege and honor to just host you today. Are there any final last words that you would like to leave for any of our listeners who are either starting out in leadership or they're in their leadership journey where they're feeling a little weary and might not know how to keep moving forward? What would you want to say to them?
If you're feeling weary, you need a friend. And it can be your best friend, or it can be someone in the profession that you've grown to trust, or it could be someone you watched and you said, I want to reach out to that person. Reach out to them if you can reach out to them. And because we all go through it every day, leaders have an issue, and it may not rise to the level that needs consultation, but all of that builds up over time. So you do need to find some area to rest. Like I said, I pushed myself so hard that I made myself sick, and you don't want to do that, because that then impacts you, your family, everything about what's going on around you. So you have to have self-care. Oh my goodness, yes. So massages are great. Praying is even better. And journaling, if you like to, write down things and let it be just between you and the Lord. I have a journal, and because I love the mint, so we have these ancient books. They lock, and you write in them.
That is amazing.
It's the original papers.
Oh, that character. Yeah.
I know, right? And on the front of it, let's see if I can find something like this that I'll be willing to share.
I love it.
So I opened it with
mind, body, and the spirit.
And I opened, yeah, exactly. So
wow.
that's, and I will go through and I'll journal some things and some I won't. Sometimes if someone upset me, I'll look for a scripture like, if you forgive anyone, I also forgive him. So I let it speak for me. But keep it handy. And nothing says you have to do it every day. Do it as you feel. That way you don't put pressure on yourself.
That is wonderful. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. This has been a delightful conversation, an insightful conversation, an inspiring conversation, and definitely an impactful one.
Okay, I'm glad. Thank you.
Yes, it has been amazing. Thank you so much for agreeing to join me on my little podcast, The MANN-O-LOGUES.
Oh,
And
no, it's wonderful. I
you
love the monologues. Yeah,
listen, we got to do what we got to do.
that's right.
You,
That's right.
I reached out. I said, I was like, let me just take a chance and reach out. And
Hmm.
you responded. And that again speaks to you just staying connected. And to me, so it was a small thing, but it was a huge thing for me. And so
Oh,
I
thank
am
you.
very humbled and very appreciative so much for your time. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
God bless you. All righty.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
don't be a stranger. Let me know anytime.
No. Whether you're stepping into leadership for the first time or reimagining what it means after decades in the field, I hope you've been inspired by our conversation today. Thank you for listening to MANN-O-LOGUES.